Lapras, the Pokemon that is true to its Pokedex entry as the transportation Pokemon. Now Lapras may be good at getting you across the ocean, but how well could it put up a fight against some of the biggest threats in competitive Pokemon? Let's find out! In this video, we will be going over Lapras in these popular competitive formats. In Gen 1, Lapras debuted as one of the best special tanks in the game, sporting a base 130 HP stat to go with its 95 special stat. All of this, combined with Lapras' stat Blizzard, allowed Lapras to blast other threats like Golem, Rhydon, and Exeggutor with ease. As for other high special users like Alakazam and Chansey, Lapras was able to continuously body slam them for physical damage while being able to tank their special damage quite well. It can also carry Confuse Ray in order to parafuse certain Pokemon, which basically means it can paralyze them with Body Slam and then confuse them, decreasing their chances of making a move during their turn. Because it was a water type with a high special, it was sometimes contested with Starmie for the water type of the team. Though Starmie is faster and does slightly more electric damage, Lapras does more damage with its ice moves because of Stab and has much higher HP. Though of course, Lapras had its weaknesses. Electric types or Pokemon with electric type moves gave Lapras a lot of trouble, though Zapdos can't switch into Blizzard safely. Gengar in particular made for a good answer to Lapras because it was immune to Body Slam, could survive hits thanks to its high special, and hit Lapras back with a Thunderbolt. Though despite these weaknesses, Lapras was a great tank. Alright, Gen 2, Lapras got to keep its base 95 special defense during the special split into special attack and defense. Unfortunately though, a lot of its damage went down. For starters, its special attack is now 85 as opposed to 95 in Gen 1, and the move Blizzard was also nerfed from having 90% accuracy to 70% accuracy, making Ice Beam, a weaker move than Blizzard, more preferred. Since the freeze status itself was also nerfed, Lapras and I'm assuming some other ice types became less desirable despite not being able to be frozen. As for sets, Lapras usually ran either a support set or its Sleep Talk set in order to deal electric and ice damage to its opponents. If it does run Surf, it can deal with Tyranitar and Steelix pretty well. Unfortunately, once again, the electric types handled Lapras well except for Zapdos. Actually, any special defense oriented Pokemon who were not weak to Lapras' moves like Blissey, Umbreon, and Snorlax could easily take hits from Lapras, as well as Magneton who resists both of Lapras' primary moves and could hit it back with strong electric attacks. Though Lapras was not a bad Pokemon in this gen, it was unfortunately nerfed due to the shifting mechanics and also outclassed by the likes of Cloyster, who was the same typing and better suited for physical attacks, as well as Lantern, who had stab electric moves. Alright, Gen 3, Smogon Singles. Lapras got the same treatment as Arcanine, being placed in the borderline tier, which once again basically means it had a hard time versus the top threats in overuse, but was too good for underuse. In addition to this, Lapras was unfortunately outclassed by other bulky water types in the tier like Milotic, Vaporeon, and Swampert. The reason for this is not because of its stats, but because of Lapras' ice typing, which makes it weak to rock and neutral against steel. Also, despite receiving the move Dragon Dance, Lapras was outclassed in that as well, since it did not have any physical stabs due to all water and ice moves being special. In fact, Lapras' main role was to handle other bulky water types like Milotic and Vaporeon thanks to its new ability Water Absorb, and the fact that it was a good candidate as a Toxic Staller. It could also carry Roar to phase out the likes of Suicune to prevent it from setting up. Though the Roar set must be used with Spike support or else Lapras will just be roaring things away with little advantage gained. Unfortunately, Lapras still didn't do well against other specially bulky Pokemon like Blissey, Snorlax, and Regice, who could all take Lapras' moves and deal more damage back. In addition to this, Lapras can actually check physical threats like Tyranitar and Metagross, and of course, electric types like Zapdos and Raikou, and electric moves from Jirachi all gave Lapras a hard time, and it's because of all this Lapras was placed in the borderline tier. Despite it being bulky, it was unfortunately held back by its typing. Alright, Gen 4. Thanks to the physical and special split, as far as sets go, Lapras could actually be used as either a special attacker or a physical one with Dragon Dance or Curse, since it now had moves like Waterfall, Avalanche, and Ice Shard. But despite these additions, Lapras fell very far off. Lapras in the overused tier was severely outclassed by water types like Starmie, Milotic, Swampert, and Gyarados as a Dragon Dance variant. Lapras just had a very hard time switching in on a number of standard threats, like most of the fighting types, the electric types, and even some of the grass types. And of course, thanks to a little move called Stealth Rocks, Lapras was one of the many Pokemon who fell in usage because of its typing, since it takes 25% damage on switch-in. Though Lapras had the ability to heal itself even in the underused tier, it was outclassed by other water type type Pokemon like Feraligatr and Lantern for the roles of Dragon Dancer or Special Wall. Unfortunately, due to all this, Lapras was placed in the never used tier because it was outclassed by so many other water type Pokemon. In Gen 4 VGC, Lapras did see some usage because of its bulk and was even used in the finals of the San Francisco Regional Tournament, which had over 300 entrants. Now, admittingly, there wasn't very much documentation during this time for VGC, but the fact that it made it that far in a relatively large tournament definitely makes it worthy of discussion. The set that was used for Lapras here was a bulky special attacking variant that carried Perish Song. Though it most likely had trouble versus the physical threats of the meta as well as the electric types like Zapdos and Electivire, Lapras was able to tank a number of special hits and hit them with super effective attacks, or hit every Pokemon on the field with Surf. In fact, a strategy that was used during the San Francisco Regional was to have Smeargle would transform and to transform it into Lapras so that they could both spam Surf to heal each other whilst doing damage. And of course, Perish Song gave its opponent a time limit and could force a switch or cause a KO. Because of all this, it seems like Lapras was a decent choice for Gen 4 VGC. Alright, Gen 5, Lapras did not advance much in usage. However, it did have a couple of cool sets that it could use thanks to its hidden ability Hydration, which instantly heals any status it has in the rain. There was also a Perish Trap set consisting of Perish Song, Whirlpool, and Rest with the Hydration ability. Unfortunately though, since Stealth Rocks was still a thing, and since Lapras had a hard time taking hits from a lot of the top threats in the overuse, it was kept mostly out of the top meta, aside from that Perish Song niche. With the abundance of fast Pokemon, and not to mention that a lot of those fast Pokemon could use super effective fighting and rock moves in order to destroy Lapras, Lapras was mostly kept out of the top meta. Because of all this and being outclassed by other water types and even the lower tiers, since Drizzle wasn't allowed in the lower tiers, making Lapras rely on temporary rain, Lapras sadly remained in the never used tier. Alright, finally Gen 6, Lapras got the move Freeze Dry, which allowed it to be even more effective against other water types, since it's an ice move that does super effective damage to water types. However, with the increase of more offensively based fighting, grass, electric, and rock type Pokemon, Lapras definitely could not keep up with the top threats like Mega Lopunny, Medicham, Scizor, the Mega Charizards, and many others. Since Drizzle got nerfed to Temporary Rain instead of Perpetual Rain, Lapras even lost its Perish Trap Hydration niche. In fact, because those types were so common offensively everywhere, and there were other water types in a lot of the lower tiers that outclassed Lapras, Lapras was moved from never used to the PU tier, as it was outclassed by the water types and even never used. For those who don't know, the PU tier is the absolute bottom tier in the Smogon system. Though it was a niche pick in the never used tier thanks to its Ice Stab, with a metagame that was advancing a lot of the types that Lapras was weak to, Lapras' usage went very far down. But that's okay, because for Gen 6 VGC doubles, Lapras was actually used during VGC 2014 and 2016. And keep in mind, 2016 is a format where 2 Uber Pokemon were allowed per team. This is extremely impressive considering some of the Pokemon that were allowed included Mega Rayquaza, Primal Groudon and Kyogre, and Xerneas. This Lapras set that I'm showing you right now was most notably used by VGC player John Hugh during the VGC 2014 Worlds and the VGC 2016 Brooklyn Premier Challenge tournaments. The idea of the set is to use an Assault Vest on Lapras in order to take advantage of its special defenses in exchange for only being able to use attacking moves. This set utilized the move Freeze Dry in order to combat other water types. It could also use the move Ice Shard for priority in order to pick off weakened Pokemon, as well as the move Hydro Pump for general damage. This combined with its ability Water Absorb made it a solid threat versus rain teams and other water type Pokemon in general. In fact, in VGC 2016, John brought Lapras in order to combat against Primal Kyogre because Lapras is immune to water moves. It could also live through a Dragon Ascent and a Precipice Blades from Rayquaza and Groudon. Lapras actually did pretty well if the opponent carried Trick Room, since because of its low speed, it could actually go first. It seems that even though Lapras was an odd choice, it was still a solid pick for the VGC meta, at least against other water types. And that's it. So how did Lapras do? Well, for singles, I'd say Lapras was not that good. At least not anymore. It started out pretty well in Gen 1, but it seemed to go downhill as the generations went on. Eventually, it was outclassed by a bunch of other bulky water types, and it just couldn't keep up with the meta, since a lot of its weaknesses became more prominent threats, and the overall singles meta was shifting towards more speedy attackers. And Lapras has really slow speed, so you can see why it didn't do well. For doubles though, Lapras seemed to be a solid pick, albeit a bit unconventional. Against other water types, it seems to do quite well and could be utilized very effectively if it was on the right team, and especially if it was on John Hughes' team. And I only hope Gen 7 is a bit more forgiving for Lapras, but you know,
Ice type sucks.
Thanks for watching, everyone. If you liked the video, be sure to subscribe for False Swipe Gaming for more weekly Pokemon content. And of course, comment on what Pokemon you want next. Also, follow me on these social media platforms for more updates. Alright, that's all I got. Peace out, everyone.